parents, it's Yulia, Executive Function Coach, and I work with students and families to help them navigate ADHD and executive function challenges, especially when it comes to school and your relationships. And I'll be doing Q&A all week, so please leave a comment either in this video or in a different post, and I will answer your question via video. Our first question comes from a mother named Anne. And Anne, I don't know how old your child is, but I will give you my best advice for your question, which is about procrastination. So how do you get them to understand the importance of not waiting till the last minute to do things? I ask, do you need help? I get a no 3 or 4 times, and then the last minute when they're overwhelmed, I'm asked for help. So Anne, great question, and procrastination is a huge topic. I will actually, after I record this video, link an older video that I made with my procrastination hacks. It'll give you more tools. But in this video, I want to talk about 8 specific pieces of advice that I came up with for your question. And when you take the time to do it in this order, you are going to find that it's a lot easier to deal with this over time. Planning, by the way, is a skill that unfortunately they do not teach in schools directly, and it is a very complex skill that all of us need to master, and it's a skill that takes a really long time to master. So if your child is young, or even if they're in high school, don't expect them to be able to do this. They really need guidance. So these steps are about helping your child practice planning so that they become better at it and do less of the procrastinating. So first of all, you want to talk about the issue before it comes up. Don't wait until your child has an assignment to talk about procrastination. Do it before. And you want to talk about it in a specific way. First of all, you want to acknowledge how they feel and talk about resistance. And resistance is that feeling that we get when we know we need to do something and we really just don't feel like doing it. Whatever the reason is, we experience resistance. Talking about it ahead of time is going to help you before it happens, because you're going to be able to say, here it is. Here's that feeling of resistance we talked about. So the first tip is to talk about it before it happens. Talk about resistance before it happens to prepare for it. Step number 2 is, during this conversation, parents, I want you to tell your child, because they might not be willing to talk about, I want you to tell them that I'm going to give you lots of time to think about it, to really think about how you feel and answer, because I really want to understand what it feels like when you procrastinate. Help me understand you. And I'm going to do my best to be really quiet and to just listen without responding. And I want you to do that, parents. Imagine a giant pause button and press that pause button after you ask your child questions about procrastination, and just listen to hear their feelings. You might not agree with everything they say, but I promise you, you're gonna agree with how they feel. And once they start sharing their feelings, you want to really wait, and as they're talking and they get done with whatever they're saying, you want to say, tell me more. And keep pressing that pause button to listen, because you're going to hear a lot of stuff. And chances are this is your child's first time thinking through this in a mindful way, feeling those feelings while you're there in a non-judgmental space, sharing that with you. So I want you to be okay if your child doesn't say anything. If you want to put a 3 or 5 minute timer even, and just let them know, I'll sit here quietly for 5 minutes, and even if you don't say a thing, that's great. Don't worry about it. I just want you to sit and think and feel, and tell me when you feel ready. So those are the first 2 steps. As part of listening, you want to validate your child's emotions. Once you hear how they feel, once you listen, once you ask them to tell you more, don't leave anything out, then you want to validate how they feel. And you can use phrases like, whoa, I really understand how frustrating that must have felt for you, or how nervous you were, or how overwhelming that was, or how complicated that task was to do. And I hear that you're feeling like your teacher isn't giving you enough time or isn't giving you enough guidance. So really validate how they feel. Now, the next part, step number 3, is going to be to make a plan excuse me, make a plan ahead of time for the next time they're assigned something that they're going to need, that they might procrastinate on. And what you want to ask them to start this process of planning is, what are you going to do a little bit differently next time to get a better outcome? And just like before, you want to press pause and really let them think about this. Give them enough time where they can think ahead about your question, visualize the next time this might happen, feel through that, and come up with ideas on what they can do differently. And if they don't have ideas right away, let them know that's perfectly fine, that even just sitting and thinking about it is a great step to take. Now, you can help them with this plan with the next few techniques, but I want to say first, make sure they're the ones doing the planning. Don't give them a plan. Don't give them too many suggestions on what you do or what works for you, because you want to help them take ownership and feel responsible. When your child takes ownership, they're more likely to execute that plan. When you just give them a plan and say, here, do this is a great plan, because they didn't come up with it on their own, you're actually not helping their executive function skills develop. Thinking for themselves is what gets them to develop that skill. And that's way more important right now than having the perfect plan or even getting that work done or even getting a good grade. You don't want to care about any of that outcome stuff. You want to care more about the process and more about practicing this skill that they are going to need forever. You need to help them develop this ability and not just give them ready-made stuff. Chances are they're not going to use your plan anyway, parents. So, how to help them make a plan. So, my tip number 3 is letting them know that you want to help them create chunks of time, or, let me start over. Tip number 3 is you want to help them make a plan and think about a plan in terms of chunks of time or chunks of things that they're going to do. So think about it in terms of, okay, how many steps do you need to take to finish this project? If there are 3 steps, you want to chunk it in those 3 steps. And a really important tip about ADHD and executive function challenges is you don't want to plan to do a little tiny bit every day. So if you have a week and you have 3 major things to do, you want to plan 3 big chunks of time over the course of that week where you give your child at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe, to really sit and really focus on that thing. Because chances are it's going to take them about 20 minutes just to shift and transition into that task. So you don't want to be in a rush. You don't want to stop right when you've started. You want to use that momentum because getting started is probably going to be the hardest part for your child. Once they've started, they're probably going to have an easier time doing it, especially if you do the next few things before you start. So first of all, once you have created chunks and talked about how long you're going to focus for, how long that's going to take, you want to write down the plan and write down how long that's going to take, and even think ahead to some of the breaks you're going to take. Like, are you going to eat a snack? Are you going to have a 5-minute break every 30 minutes or every hour? Try to plan that stuff ahead of time, because even helping your child visualize what they're going to do is going to be a huge step in getting them to do it later. Helping your child visualize what they're going to do in the future is an executive function skill that they do not have. Helping them talk things out loud to themselves with you is a skill that they need to develop that they do not yet have. So every little thing you practice, it's so valuable before you even get to the work. Next, number 5, you want to separate the preparation work from the task itself. And a simple idea is, if you have a project to do and it's a poster, but you need to do the research first, you need to get the poster set up, you need to get the marker set up, you need to get the websites or books where you're going to do the research. All of that stuff is prep work, and that can be chunked into a separate assignment. And then the next chunk of it is actually doing the work, getting the poster started. Maybe part of the prep work is doing the research and printing the pictures, or just setting up the materials. But you want to separate those things so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming, and that your child knows, okay, today I don't have to start and finish this thing. I just need to get this set up. And it's going to help them feel a lot less overwhelmed if they tend to feel overwhelmed. Next, number 6, ask them these specific questions to help them get through the toughest part of executing that task. So before they ever start, ask your child these specific questions. What is the most difficult part of that task? And remember, really listen after each one of these and ask them to tell you more. What is the easiest part of the task? What is your least favorite? What is your most favorite? What's going to be the longest or the shortest part of that task? What materials do you need to get that task done? And what obstacles can you imagine in the future that you can get some help with to make that part easier? What are some of the challenges that you anticipate? Now, number 7, once you have the plan, you want to make sure that it is written somewhere very clearly. Make it big, make it easy to follow, write down how much time it's going to take and from what time to what time you're going to do it. So example, you're going to prepare the materials for your poster. It's going to take 30 minutes and you're going to do it from 2 to 2:30. That's just an example. Once you have that written down, post it up somewhere where they can see it or leave it on their desk. Get a timer and set the time for that task and help them transition into doing it. And my last tip for you parents, I'm not sure if this is number 7 or 8, probably number 8. My last tip is don't leave them alone when they're doing this. If they have a hard time sitting and focusing on their work, set them up in a public space, maybe the dining room table. Make sure it's nice and quiet and that there's not a lot of activity going on. It's at a part of the day where they're going to feel more alert. You don't want to do this, by the way, after a long time, they're watching TV or playing video games. Help them have a really fresh mind. Maybe right when they come home from school, have a 30-minute break, have a snack, or have a snack while they're working, and get them right into the work. You want to plan it, post it, set the timer, and sit near them while they work. This is such a really great tip. Parents, a lot of the times you don't have to do much more than just be there in the same room with your kid. Don't interfere too much. Maybe just help them when they ask for help, but do something else and focus on something else while they are working. And just you being there as a calm nervous system, a calm presence, is going to help them stay calm and focused. A lot of students will ask me, for example, to just give them a call on the phone and just sit and have them on speaker while I focus on something else, or be on a webinar while they're working. So just having me there and without really doing much else is a huge support that they might need for the first few times, maybe through the whole semester, until they're able to do this stuff well enough on their own. So in the beginning, you're going to want to help them a lot. You're going to give them lots of support. You're going to want to write things down for them. You're going to want to set that time for them and make the plan, with them while they're thinking, but write it for them. And then later on, you're going to give them more and more responsibility and take away more and more of the help. And this is how coaches help students get independent, because you don't want to be doing this for them, but they do need your help to develop this very complex skill that they do not have. They do not have the ability to do this, parents. So don't expect your child to one day wake up and be able to plan and stop procrastinating. It is not a matter of how much they care. It is not a matter of how motivated they feel. They just don't have the ability to do this stuff. It takes a lot of executive function, and ADHD is a developmental delay that is measurable in the brain, and it is a developmental delay in their executive function skills. But the good news is, parents, you can help them build these skills little by little over time. They will improve, it will get better, and they will be more open to your help if you approach it this way. So that's my message. I hope it's helpful. Thank you so much for that question. You can leave a question or a comment in this thread or in a new thread, and I will make sure to record a video for your question in the next day or so as we move through this week. And it's back to school week, so I wish you a happy semester ahead, and I'm here to help anytime you need. My name is Yulia. I'm an executive function coach based out of Los Angeles, California, and I'll see you in our next video.